Hey, what's up? Welcome back to this new video. This one is paper 3171. I guess it's called the July series. It is a requested paper for paper 2 of Math Syllabus D. Now with that being said, let's move on to questions. Number 1. So here what do we have? On day 1, we have 12 employees. So we have 12 people here in an office. Recorded the distance they drove to work and the time it took. Okay, so we have a table right here and we have to use these values to plot them on this graph below, right? So on this grid, the first 6 points has been plotted for you. Now we have to plot the rest. The rest will be 35, 40. So 35 will be right here, 40 should be here, right? Okay, and then we have 20, 29, 20, 29 should be somewhere over here. And what else? We have 32, 40, 32 will be right here, and 40 will be somewhere over here. There you go. And we have 35, 48, 35, 48 right here. And we have 22, 33, 22, 33 should be right here. And we have 39, 46, 39, 46, 46. Okay, right here. Okay, so now we have all the points. Now what's next? This is part 1, part 2. What type of correlation do we have here? So as you can see, as the distance increases, the time taken also increases. So you will have a positive correlation. So you can write positive correlation. For part 3, we have to draw a line of best fit. Try your best to make your line go through as many points as possible, or try to equally balance the points on both sides of the line. So where can I put this? I should put this somewhere over here, I guess. I would say something like this. Should be okay. Yeah, but we'll have one outlier. I guess something like this should be fine. Yeah. Let's try our best to make a line pass through as many points as possible, or at least try to balance them equally on both sides. Okay, so that will be my line of best fit. Should be looking something like this, not too strange. Now for part 4, another employee drove a distance of 30 km to work. Use that line you just drawn. Again, it will depend on the line you drawn to find the minutes he took. So 30 will be right here. So obviously you have to show your work. So according to my graph, 30 right here. And then the corresponding value will be 40 minutes according to my line of best fit. So your line could be 39, 42, 38, will be around that value as well. So your answer here will be around the value. So for me will be 40, but for you could be 38 or 42. Should be okay as well. That will be part 4 of your question. Now let's move on to part B of your question. So there are 150 employees in the company. So now we know the total number of employees is 150. Okay, so that will be something we have to use later on. So the table shows the distances in km each employee travels to work. Okay, so how do you read this? For example, frequency is the number of employees. So 25 employees has to travel between 0 and 10 km to go to work. Same way here, 36 employees have to travel between 25 and 30 km to work. So that's the way you read this table. Now part 1, we have to find the percentage of the employees who travel more than 25 km to work. So more than 25, let's have a look. So more will be more than 25. Okay, so that will be 10, obviously not good. Less than 20, that will be less than 25. So everything over here, this is distance will be less than 25. So more than 25 will be everything over here, right? Do you agree? So that will be 36 plus 39. So let's use our calculator here. So the number of employees traveling more than 25 will be 55. So 55 employees travel more than 25 km to work, so divide by 150 times 100. So this divided by 150 times 100, that will be 36.7, correct? 3SF, or you can write this one as well, percentage for the percentage of employees. Now for part 2, we have to calculate an estimate. Again, estimate, you have to be an estimation for the mean distance. So how do you find estimate? So whenever you have a range or classes over here, you can see 0 to 10, 10 to 25. To find the mean, you have to use the midpoint of those values. For example, What is the midpoint here? That will be 5, right? What is the midpoint here? That will be 15. So how do you find those usually? So pretty easy. You take the value here plus this one, so 0 plus 10 divided by 2. That's the midpoint. Here, 10 plus 20 divided by 2. That's the midpoint. So that's how you find the midpoint for those values. So you will have 22.5, 27.5, and here you will have what? Let's try. So that will be 45. Let's check. 30 plus 60 divided by 2, that should be 45. So 45 will be the midpoint. Okay, so let's call these x, and let's call this f. F as frequency. So how do you find the mean? So the mean is equal to the sum of fx divided by the number of people. Okay, so basically fx is this time this time this, and the sum of those. So first one, 5 times 25, that should be 125. 15 times 28, that should be 420. We have 22.5 times 42. 27.5 times 36. 45 times 19, that should be 855. Now the sum of these values, so 125 plus 420 plus 945 plus 990 plus 855. That should be 3335 divided by 150, which is the number of people. That will be 22.2. Correct the 3 as F, or you can write the exact value, which is 22.7/30 for the mean estimate of this data of this group of people. And that is your question number 1. Now let's move on to question number 2. So here we have Zara. She works for 5 days a week. Okay, 5 days. Now on every day she works from 8 till 12:30. So you have to find the difference. So 8 to 12. So 12:30 minus 8. That will be 0, 3. That should be 4, right? So 12 minus 8, 4. So 4:30. This will be 4.5 hours here, right? Do we agree? 30 minutes is 0.5 hours. Yeah, fair enough. Now from here to here, so 17 minus 13, 15. So first we have to take 1 hour off to send over here. That will be 60 minutes because we know 1 hour is not 100 minutes, it is 60 minutes. Now 60 minus 15, that should be 45. And here we have 60 minus 13, that should be 3. So from here till here, she works 3.75 hours. Do we agree that 45 minutes is 0.75 hours? No, not too sure. We can always check, right? So let's say we know that 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour. So 1 minute, you would say that is equal to 1 divided by 60 hours. Now for 45 minutes, you would say 45 minutes, that should be, obviously, we take the 1 minute one, which is 1 over 60, times 45. So let's find out. 45 divided by 60, that should be 3/4, which is 0.75. So we confirm that it is 0.75 hours. So here, by saying this 3 hours and 45 minutes, we also can say 3.75 hours. Now, work out how much Zara earns this week, in 1 week. So one by one, right? So first thing first, we have to find out how much she works in a day. So 4.5 plus this, that will be 8.25. So she works 1 day, she works 8.25 hours. Now for a week, she works 5 days, so 5 days, 8.25 times 5, that should be 41.25 hours for a week. Now we want to know how much she makes, right? But we know that 1 hour she earns 1540, so we can say that will be 1540 times the number of hours she works during that week. That will be 635.25. That is your answer for part A of your question. Now for part B, Samuel works 40 hours each week. Okay, she's paid 13.60 per hour. So how much he's getting paid? So pretty easy. That'll be 40 times 13.60. That will be 544. Okay, that's how much he's getting for this week. Now, he pays 7.5% of this earning in taxes. The rest of his earning are paid into his bank. Find the amount that is paid into his bank. So one way of doing this question, we can say, wait, we know that he pays 7.5% as tax. So how much he pays as tax? You can say tax is equal to 7.5% will be 7.5 percentages divided by 100 of the amount that he gets will be this. 7.5 divided by 100 times 544, that should be 40.8. So finally, the amount that rests, the rest will be 544 minus answer, that should be 503.2. So you can see that will be the amount that goes to his bank. Again, when we deal with money, it is advised to leave your answer correct to 2 decimal place. Sometimes, right? Sometimes they will ask you in terms of dollars, but here it's fine. Now, obviously, this is one way of solving the question. You can always use the other way. For example, we can say, hey, we know that 544, it is the initial amount, and we always see it as 100%. Now, we are trying to find how much is left. But we know that we have decreased this amount by 7.5%, paying taxes. So you would say 100 minus 7.5, that will be 92.5%. So we know this is equal to this. We have to find this. So one by one. So 92.5 is equal to 544 divided by the ratio, and then times 92.5. And that should give you the same value as well. It is just another way of solving this question more directly. So also 503.20 will be your answer. That will be part B of your question. Now let's move on to question number part C. So Jacob invests $750 into an account that pays 2.1 per year, simple interest. Okay. And Mary invests $750 in an account that pays P% per year, compound interest. So we have two kinds of interest here. One is simple interest and one is compound interest. All right. Now they each leave the money in the bank for 5 years. So this is time. Time will be 5 years. And this is the principal, right? The amount they invest, principal, P and P. And this is the rates, right? Rates. Now, the idea is that at the end of 5 years, there is the same amount of money in each account. So we know that at the end of 5 years, Jacob and Mary has the same amount of money in their accounts. So we have to find the value of P correct to 2 decimal place. So one by one, let's first find out how much Jacob has at the end of 5 years. So number one, for Jacob. So here we have simple interest. What is the formula for this one? So we know the amount at the end is equal to the P, which is the principal, plus I, which is the interest earned. So principal, we know it is given to you by 750. Now what is the I? I is the interest earned. That will be what? That will be PRT. We have to know I is equal to PRT. P is 750. The rate is 2.1%. And time will be 5. So 7.5, 750 plus 750 times 2.1% times 5. That should be 828.75. This is the amount that he has at the end. Now, number two, we know that Mary also has the same amount at the end. So, but what is the formula for compound interest? You would say this A is equal to what? 1 plus R T. So we know A is the amount, which is the same as Jacob. P is the principal, same thing. 1 plus rate, we don't know the rate, will be P over 100, right, the percentage. And time will be 5 years. So we have to use this to solve for the value of P. So one by one. This is basically P%. So P over 100, so P over 100 is P%. Okay, that makes sense, right? So now we have to solve. So one by one, we have to first divide by this. So 825.75 divided by 750, that will be 1.105. That will be 1 plus P over 100, which is P%. And then we have to simplify this power here. We have to send this over here. That will become 1.105 power 1.5. That will be 1 plus P over 100. So finally, so we have send this over here. That will have P%. That is 1.105 power 1 over 5 minus 1. So 1 over 5 is 0.2, so 0.105 power 1 over 5 minus 1 should be this. So P over 100 should be 0.1615647. So P will be this times 100, that should be 16.16. But I think I maybe have a decimal mistake over here. That should be because let me try, because that does not make sense. It's too high of an interest rate. That should be 1.62, I think so. But let me try to confirm here. That should be this plus 0.16 power 5. That will be too much. So that will be not the right answer. So let me see where did I made a mistake. Somewhere should be over here. So 828.75 divided by 750. That is 1.105, correct. And then power here, we have to send this over here. Answer powered by 0.2. That should give me this value. So it's a mistake here. Should not be this value. This minus 1 is this. So this is not right. That should be 0.020169. So finally P will be 2.0169. So P correct to 2 decimal place will be 2.02. So value of P correct to 2 decimal place will be 2.02. Okay, here you go. As you can see, there was a calculation mistake over here. So this will give you this, and you will have this as your answer. Correct to 2 decimal place for the value of P. Now let's move on to question number 3. So complete the table for y. Y we have this, so we have to find this value when x is equal to minus 3. So replace. Let's see what happens. So minus 3 power 3. That should be minus 27 times minus will be plus 27 over 2 minus 9 plus 1. That should be 5.5. Right? So 5.5 will be 5.5. That makes sense. So let's try again using the formula directly. So minus, that should be minus 27 over 2 plus 3 times minus 3 plus 1. That should be this as the answer. Confirm. So 5.5 will be the value of y. Now we have to draw the graph. Bear with me. So we have to plot all the points first. So minus 3, 5.5 should be somewhere over here. Minus 2, minus 1, right here. Minus 1.5, minus 1.8. So minus 2 is minus 2 minus 1 minus 1.5 should be here, minus 1.8 should be right here, and then we have minus 1 minus 1.5, minus 1 1.5 should be right here, and then we have 0 1, and then we have 1 3.5, 3.5 is right here, 1.5 3.8, and then we have 2 3. Finally 3 will be minus 3.5. Okay, there you go. So we have to plot all this graph, all these points, at least as smooth as we can. So let's see. Okay, so this is a mistake here. This should be 5.5, not minus 5.5. Should be over here. So this one should be over here. I guess that's so dumb, but yeah, should be careful. Here you go. Drawn these by a smooth curve. Something like this. Has to be smooth, and here you go, touching all the points. And that will be your question part B. Obviously, you will be using a pencil. If in case you made a mistake, you can always erase and come back to it. Now for part C, we are drawing a tangent. Estimate the gradient of the curve at x equal to 2. So what is the value? X equal to 2 is somewhere over here, right here. Now we have to draw a tangent here. Again, try your best to make that tangent just touches the point. Should be something like this. Now again, mine may not be perfect. It could also be not great because it depends on the shape of your graph and where it touches your thing over here. So it depends. Now this is how you do it. You draw a line as best as you can where it touches the curve at exactly that point, and then you find one point on one side, and you find one point on this side. So this is the point 2.8, 0, and this is the point 1.36. So we can use those 2 points to find the gradient of the tangent. So how do you find the gradient? It is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that'll be 6 over the value of 1.3 minus 2.8, that'll be minus 1.5, should be minus 4. Let's check. 6 divided by answer, that should be minus 4. So this is my value for my gradient according to my drawing and my line. Now your value may be a bit different depending on how you draw your line or your curve, right? It could depend, but that's how you will do it. Now for part B, by drawing a suitable line, estimate the solution for this one. Now again, whenever we have this question, we have to use the initial curve they give you. For example, we know that y is equal to minus x power 3 over 2 plus 3x plus 1. So we always have to use that. Now what do you see? You can see this is here and here, right? For example, kind of the same. Or you can see this one right here, only this one, x cubed over 2. So let's try to make this become subject. Send this over here, you will have x cubed over 2 is equal to 3x plus 1. Send this over here, become minus y. So now what can you do? You can replace this value in here. So this is equal to 3x plus 1 minus y. And then here we have plus 1 again, equal to 2y. Now send everything, send this over here and this over here, you will have what? 3x minus 2x, that will be plus 2, equal to y. So y is equal to x plus 2. So now you end up with this equation, which means that you have to draw this one on the graph. And how do you draw a line? You have to find 2 passing points. For example, you can say, let's take the value of x to be 0, so 0x, and y will be 2. Let's take y to be 0, x will be minus 2. So we have 2 passing points, and we can draw the line on the graph. So 0, 2, and minus 2, 0. So 0, 2 will be here, right? Sorry, 0, 2, yep, exactly, 0, 2 is here, and then we have minus 2, 0, should be something over here. Okay, as you can see, here we have the graph, and it's supposed to pass through the points. Now let's try your best to make it pass through the points. Obviously, you have to join those 2 points. There you go. There you go. Now label this as y equal to x plus 2. Now you have to find the solution. Obviously, you will have to find the corresponding x solution. So for this one, it cuts the graph right here. That will be x value will be minus 2.2, and here that will be 0.5, and here that will be 1.7. So let's write this down. So the first value that I can see from my graph, again, your value may be a bit different, but the method is the same, right? So for me, it shows to be minus 2.2. X, the other one shows to be 0.5, and then I have 1.7. This is according to my graph. Okay, that will be part B of your question, and that is part D actually. Question number 3. Now let's move on to question number 4. This is a set question. Let's see what happens here. So first thing first, we have a universal set where x is an integer. Integer is whole number between 1 and 10, inclusive of those numbers. So we can first list down the numbers. That will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So these are the numbers in the universal set. Now P is a prime number. So you can say 2 is prime, 3 is prime, 5 is prime, 7 is prime, and that's pretty much it. So these are the prime numbers we have. Now here we have factors of 18. So what are the factors of 18? So let's first find out. So 18 is what? You can divide by 2, you will have 9. You can divide by 3, you will have 3. So 18 can be 1 times 18, right? 18 can be 2 times 9. 18 can be 3 times 6. 18 can be, that should be pretty much it, right? Factor of 18, so we got 3 times 6, 5 times something, no, 6 times 3, but that's pretty much it. Here you go. So these will be the factors of 18. So let's write this down. It could be 1, 2, we have 3, 6, and 9. Obviously 18 will be too much, we cannot use 18, and the rest will be not in the factors, right? So that will be part A, to first list down all the numbers we have in those sets. Now question is, we have to complete the Venn diagram. So let's do this. So let's complete. So we can see that here we have 1 already done for you. Now we have same as 2, 2, 3, 3. So these are the same, so 2, 3, we can write this here. And then P, we will have 5 over here, and 7. Here you have 6 and 9, and the rest will be outside. So 1, 2, 3, 4 will be outside, 5, 6, 7, 8 will be outside, and 10 will be outside. So these are the numbers outside, but in total you need to have all your 10 numbers here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this will be part A of your question. Now for part 2, we have to write down the elements of P intersecting F. You can see these are the ones, so you can write set of 2 and 3. That is only one mark. Now we have to state the number of elements which is in this set. So it is P prime, which is outside of P. Outside of P, let's first list them down. Outside of P we have what? That will be 4, 8, 6, 9, 10. F, outside of F we have, F is here outside, so we have 1 as well, we forgot 1. Of F will be this one, 5, 7, 4, 8, and 10. Now union, so P union this one, that should give you what? That should give you 1, 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So the value is they're asking is a number of elements, so we have to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That will be 8 elements. And that is your answer for part 3 of your question. Again, these questions are not tough, it is just annoying. You have to list all those numbers, it's really annoying. But it's not tough. That will be part B of your question. So here we have what? Tara has has these 10 number cards. So he has 10 cards. Okay, cool. Now, part 1. She takes one of the 10 cards at random. Find the chance the card shows a square number. Now, what is a square number? You have to know. For example, a square number is 1 square, 1, 2 square, 3 square, 9, 4 square, 16. That will be too much already, so we have only 1, 4, 9 to look out for in this range. So square number will be 1, 4, and 9, right? So these are the square numbers. So the chance will be, we have three possible cards, so 3 over total of 10. So your answer will be 0.3, or this one as your answer as well. Now for part 2, Tara takes one of the cards again, notes the number, and replaces back in the card. So here we have replacement. Okay, cool. Now we have to find the chance that both cards shows their multiples of 4. Now what are multiples of 4? You have to know. Multiples of 4 is basically the table, multiplication table for 4. You know that 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 4 is 8, 3 times 4, that will be 12, but that is too much because we only have numbers from 1 till 10, so we are looking for only these two numbers. Now for the first time, so the chance at both times, so for the first time, for it to be a multiple of 4, we have 4 and 8, so 2 chances, 2 over 10. This is the first draw, and then second draw, since she put it back in the list, now we again have the same chance, right? We have 2 over 10. That should be 4 over 100, which is 1 over 25, or 0.04, but that will be your answer for part 2 of your question. Now for part 3, Tara takes 2 of the 10 cards at random without replacement. Now she doesn't put it back, but she takes 2 cards. Now we have to find the chance that at least one, so at least one of the cards show a number more than 7. So what are the numbers more than 7? From the list, more than 7 we have this one, right? So 8, 9, 10. So 8, 9, 10, which is 3 options. So we have to find the chance that at least one of them, at least one, what can it mean? It can mean 1 is more than 10, or both is more than 10, right? 2 cards. Now again, in those questions, I would also recommend you guys to draw a tree diagram if you guys need to. If you guys don't want to, you can always use your head to try to find this out. For example, you can say the first draw, let's say first draw and second draw. This is more than 7. This is not more than 7. First draw, second draw. This is not more than 7, but this is more than 7. Or, since it is at least 1, it can be first draw, second draw, both can be more and more than 7. That makes sense, right? So we have 3 possible case scenarios. First case is it is more than 7, so more will be 3 options over 10. Not more, that should be the rest will be 7 options over 9 because there's no replacement. Or plus, same thing, not more than 10, 7 over 10. More will be 3 over 9. Or both will be 3 over 10 times 2 over 9. Because we took one away, we took one of the options away, we have only 2 remaining, but obviously there's no replacement, so that's why we have 9 and 2 over here in the last one. So one by one, 3 over 10 times 7 over 9, plus 7 over 10 times 3 over 9, plus 3 over 10 times 2 over 9. That should be 8 over 15. So 8 over 15 will be your answer for question part 3, question number 4. Okay, now let's move on to question number 5. So here what do we have? We have the diagram shows a water tank, okay, in the shape of a prism with an open top. So the top here is open, it is not closed, so we don't have this top right here. Now the cross section of the tank, which is A, B, C, D, as you can see, is a trapezium. Alright. Now the base of the tank, CDHG, so CDHG is a rectangle. This is the length and this is the width of the rectangle. Okay. Now all the dimensions are in meters and AD is equal to BC, FG, and EH. So basically this, and this are the same. So all these side length are the same. Now for part A, we have to show the depth D is right here, that this is equal to 0.477 correct to 3SF. Now how can you show this? Obviously we have to use the given information. So we have to understand what does this really mean. So if this and this are equal, that would also explain that if you were to take this depth right here, for example, like this is the same thing as this, right? And this is the same thing as this. Makes sense. This is the depth, D, or the perpendicular height of the trapezium. Now because this and this are the same, we can agree that this and this have to be the same as well. Yeah? Okay, so because of that, we can form an equation and find this value. For example, let's call this x, x, and x. So the length AB is equal to, because EF is this, so AB will be the same as well, right? So it will be 0.95. Now we can break this down. This is equal to x plus this to this. So now we know this to this is 0.65 plus x should be 0.95. So let's solve for the value of x. So x plus x will be 2x is equal to what? 0.95 minus 65, 0.65, that should be 0.3. So finally x will be the value of 0.15. Okay, so this is 0.15 and 0.15, right? Now, how can you find this? So we can use our knowledge of right angle triangles. So since this is the perpendicular height, right, we can say this is the angle right here, and we can use that triangle. For example, let's take this out. We will have this, and this. Okay, and this is the length of 0.15. This is 0.5. So how do you find this? We can find this by using the Pythagoras theorem. For example, let's call this a. You would say a square plus 0.15 square is equal to 0.5 square. So a square is what? 0.5 square minus 0.15 square, that should be 0.2275. So finally the value of a, which is the depth that we're trying to find, let's call this d, right, because this is d actually. D, and d. So square root of this value, that should be 0.47696. So correct to 3SF, we confirm that d have to be 0.477. That will be in terms of meters. Correct to 3SF. Obviously, we'll show this work in the space over here to show how you find the answer. Now for part B, we have to find out the surface area of the tank. Now, obviously we understand the tank is open, so we don't have the top surface, we don't have this one, but we have the rest. We have this, 1, so at the back, same thing, 2, 3, 4, and 5 surface in total. So how would you find the surface area of this? So one by one. So let's first find the surface area of this trapezium. So A, B, C, D. Okay, so let me find some space over here. Okay, so this surface will be what? We use the formula, obviously, that will be half times the sum of the parallel side, so this side and this side, that will be 0.65 plus 0.95, and times the perpendicular height in between them, which is this one, or we can use this one if you want to, 0.477. Okay, so 0.65 plus 0.95 times 0.47696 times 0.5, which is half, that will be this, 68. But now we understand that this side right here is the same as the back, so this and this are the same, so we just times 2, right? That will be what? 0.763136. Okay, so now we have two surfaces. We need to find this one and this one. This should be pretty easy as well. If you observe, we have been told that so because BF, this and this is the length, and the width, as you can see, it is a prism. So this side has to be in this direction, so also same, right? So basically that will have to be a rectangle. So use a bit of your imagination as well in this kind of example. Since it is a prism, we understand that this and this are drawn by straight lines, and this will be just like this, but it is a rectangle. Use your imagination. This is, if you flip this, if you look at this shape, you would take this shape out, it is also a rectangle. Now, how do you find the area of a rectangle? Is length times width. So that will be length is 1.6 times width 0.5. Of course, times 2. Why? Because we have this side and this side in the back. So that will be 1.6 times 0.5 times 2. That will be 1.6. And then finally, we have to find the area of the base. The base, it is told that you are told that it is a rectangle for sure. So that will be 0.65 times the width. .04. So finally, the total surface area, that will be what? Plus everything, there will be this 0.763136 plus 1.6 plus 1.04. That will be 3.403. So correct to 3SF, obviously you would say it is 3.40, and that will be in terms of meters square for the surface area. That is a part B of your question. Now let's move on to part C of your question. So here we have same thing. It is the same tank, right? The diagram shows the cross-section of this tank. The tank contains water to a depth of 0.3. Now here we have water to a depth of 0.3. Now we have to show that the value of W is equal to this. Now the good thing about this question is that you know that you have to show that W is equal to something. So you know what is the right answer already, so you just have to show it is equal to this. Now of course you can keep trying until you get this as your answer, because you know that is the right answer, right? That's a good thing about this kind of question. Now here, we'll just simply use our knowledge of similar triangles. For example, we can join these two, right? For example, this. Now, what do we know here? Well, let me just also draw this one over here as well, so it can be more clear for you. So we have seen this shape before, right here. This is the A, B, C, D. Now this is x is equal to 0.15, so we can say this is 0.15, and this is also 0.15. For example, right? So which means this to here is the same as this to here. That will be 0.65. Now we don't know this, we don't know this. Let's call these y and y. So we're trying to find the value of W. W is equal to, so y plus y is 2y plus 0.65. Does that make sense? Yeah. So W is equal to this plus this 2. So now the only unknown is the value of y. So we're going to find the value of y by using the similar triangles. For example, you can see here, for example, let's take out this triangle. We have this big triangle, right? This is 0.15, and this is, we know, 0.5, given to you by the question, right? Remember? 0.5. And also we know this is the depth you have found in question part A, 0.477. Now, this is the big triangle. Now we have to look at the smaller triangle inside. So this, and this. So we have same thing almost. Something like this, right? And why we don't know? But something we know here is what? Is that we have to use the value of what here to find this. So we have to use one of the known values to find this value, is that, as you can see back in this one, this is 90 right here. And I think in this shape we don't really have anything about this, but we can use just think directly to use a similar triangles. We can try to find that value. So let's see, how can we find this? So this is 0.477, and the water contains a depth of 0.3. So we have to use that value 0.3. So how would you use that? So pretty easy as well. The value here 0.3 is the same as this one, right? Okay, so now we have the two triangles. Again, they are similar triangles. How do you know this? Because whenever you have a small triangle in a big one, and you can see this, bam, and the big one is like around its extension of itself, that will be a triangle. These triangles are similar. So that's the thing we have to know to solve this question. Now to find the value of y, we have to use similarity. For example, if you know this side, y, over the corresponding side, have to equal to 0.3 over its corresponding side. So that's how you use similarity to find the answer. So y will be what? 0.3 divided by 0.477 times 0.15. That will be 0.09434. So finally, W is equal to 2 times this plus this. So answer times 2 plus 0.65. That will be 0.83868. So W is 0.84 meters. Correct to 2SF. Okay, so as you can see, we're able to break this down and using the given values to find that, show that this is this value. So this is a good thing, so we know exactly what to show. That's a good part of this question. Now finally, we have to calculate the area of the surface of the water in the tank, Now of course, use a bit of your imagination here. So there's water in the tank. That will be something like this, right? That will be here, here, this one, and this one, right? So basically what it means is that we have to find the surface area of this one. The length is W, we just found it was 0.84, and the width is the same, it is 1.6. But now obviously, because the base is a rectangle, we also understand when you fill up the thing, this surface will also be a rectangle. So how do you find the area of a rectangle? It is length times width. 0.84 times 1.6. That should be 1.3 for correct to 3SF, right? Meters square, obviously for the units. And that will be your question number 5. Now let's move on to question number 6. So here we have a diagram. Let's see what happens here. The diagram shows a field A, B, C, D, where AB is 285, BC is 425, and this is 750. Cool. Now Karim and Nabila are running in a field. Okay, this is a field. All right. In the field, Karim starts running from point B. So Karim starts here at point B, and Nabila starts from point D. So Karim here and Nabila is here. And Nabila runs from D to C. So basically two people run from this point to this point and this point to this point respectively. Now the speed of Nabila is this and the speed of Karim is this. Now we have to work out how much time Karim waits at C before Nabila arrives. So basically we just have to first find how long did it take Karim to arrive at C and how long did it take for Nabila to arrive at C. So one by one. So let's first do Nabila, for example. Nabila runs from D to C at this speed. So we know that distance DC is given to you by 750 meters. Okay, use the speed to find the time taken. For example, we understand here 1 hour is 60 minutes. So basically, she runs 12.2 km in 60 minutes. That's what it means, the speed. Now, basically, now she actually runs 750 meters, which is also what? Which is also 0.75 km. We have to know this. So we have to use ratio to solve this question right now. So 0.75 km is going to equal to 60 divided by 12.2 times 0.75 using ratio. So that will be 60 divided by 12.2 times 0.75. That should be 3.6885 minutes. So basically, if you were to rewrite this down, that will be 3 minutes. And what is 0.68585 minutes? You can say, okay, minus 3 here, we have this. Convert to seconds, we times 60. That will be 41.3 seconds, so 41 seconds. So that will be the time taken by Nabila. Now we have to find the time taken by Karim by using the same logic here. So we know Karim runs from B to C. So B to C, distance is 425 meters, which is 0.425 km, right? Now, same logic using the speed, we would say he runs 11.5 km in 1 hour, which is 60 minutes. So he will run 425 km in 60 minutes divided by 11.5. This is the ratios times 0.425. That will be 2.21739. Now, if you were to rewrite this, you would say that will be 2 minutes and 0.2173 minutes. That will be answer minus 2, so 2 minutes gone. This will be the 0.2173 times 60. To convert that to seconds, that will be 13 seconds. Now we just have to find the difference in both times to find the time he waited. That will be 3 minutes 41 seconds minus 2 minutes 13 seconds. So 41 minus 13, that will be 28. And that will be 1 minute. So he waits for 1 minute and 28 seconds. Now if you guys have issues, I mean not issues, but having a hard time understanding this ratio thing, so let me just explain to you guys pretty simply as well. So basically what happens here is that we're just trying to find the ratio. So we're just trying to understand how to use it. For example, when I say his speed is 11.5 km per hour, it means that he runs 11.5 km in 1 hour, which is same as 60 minutes. Makes sense, right? Now, I can say, wait, I know for this distance. Now, how long does it take to run 1 km? You would say, to change this to 1 km, you have to divide by 11.5. So if you divide this by 11.5, you have to divide this one also by 11.5. So we have the same ratio. We have a valid equation. Right? So now we know he will run 1 km in this many minutes. Okay? So after finding this, we can use this to find the rest. For example, now we care about 0.425 km. So that will be what? You would say he ran 1 km in this much, so 0.45, it has to be 0.45 times the time he takes to run 1 km. So times this ratio that we did right here. And that's how I did this directly to find the answer. You will also find this. But the main point is you have to understand, why did I have this ratio? Because I was trying to find for 1 km, and then using that ratio, I can find for other kms easily. That will be question part B. Now for part B, we have B is due east of A and D is due south of A. B is on a bearing of 35 from D. So let's see. So here we have the diagram. We can say B is due east of A, right? And D is due south of D, so this is 90, makes sense. And then we can say that B is on a bearing of 35 from D. So from D, we have the north line. Okay, so that's the north line, the direction. And we say B has a bearing of 35 from D. So from D, 35, that will be this one. So this is 35 degrees. Okay, so now we have to use the given values to find what? Find the value of AD. AD is this one. Okay, as you can see, triangle ABD is a right angle triangle, so we can use SOHCAHTOA to find that value. So let's try this. So SOHCAHTOA. Okay, so that is what? That is my opposite side. So O and O. And AD is my A side, adjacent side. That will be this and this. So you can see here we have the most tally marks. We will take this one. So this is 10. 10 of the angle, 35, is equal to the opposite side, which is this one, sorry, 80, which is 285, over the value of AD that we don't know. So finally solve for AD. AD will be this divided by this, right? 285 divided by tan of 35. That will be 407.022. Now obviously correct to 3SF, you would say that is just simply 407 meters. That is your answer, correct to 3SF. Right. Now for part 2, we have to find out the bearing of C from D. The bearing of C from D. So again, from this point right here, from this line, from this line, we have to start and we have to reach C. So we have to find this big pink angle. Now it can be seen clearly that this big angle right here is the sum of this one and this one. Right? So this one we know already, it is 35. We just have to find this one. Let's call this theta. Now how can you find this angle? So we have to use the things that we know. What do we know in triangles? We know the Pythagoras theorem, we know sine rule, we know cosine rule. So we have to use these concepts to see where they apply and how we can solve this step by step. So the one thing here is that to find this angle, we know this side, but we don't know this angle. Now we can think, should we find this angle? Should we find this angle? But one thing we can do here is we realize that after some reflection, we actually can find the side BD, right? How would you find BD? Pretty easily, because ABD is a right angle triangle. And if it is a right angle triangle, we can use the Pythagoras theorem. So BD is the hypotenuse, so you would say that 407.22 square plus 285 square is equal to BD square. 407.22 square plus 285 square is 24,7,053.12 is equal to BD square. So BD will be what? That'll be 497.04. Okay, so now we know this side it is 497 meters. Now, we know all the three sides of this triangle now, so DBC, this is another triangle. We know all the three sides. Let me draw this here. So, something like this. Let's draw this as well. There you go. So we have 425, we have 750, and we have 497. And we're trying to find this angle. I call this theta. Now, because we know all the three sides of the triangle, we're trying to find this angle, we can use the cosine rule, right? You would say this side, 425 square, is equal to the sum of the two sides plus 750 squared. This is just a formula you have to know. Minus 2 times this 2 side. Again, this is just a formula you have to know. How do I know this? It is a formula, right? You have to know how to use this. Now we have to simplify and solve for the value of cos theta. So cos theta will be what? We have to evaluate 425 square minus 497 square minus 750 square. Divide by minus 2 times 497 times 750. That will be 0.84357. Theta is cos inverse of that value, so cos inverse, that will be 32.5 degrees correct to 1 decimal place. Now finally, after placing this angle back right here, so 32.5, right? So we know that the bearing of C from D, that will be 35 plus this one. 35 plus 32.5. That will be 67.5. So the value will be 67.5. You can leave this as such, or you can write 0 here to show that it is a bearing. Up to you. Both answers are accepted in the marking schemes. Now let's move on to question number 7. So here are the first 4 terms of a sequence. Okay. Part 1, we have to find an expression for the nth term of this sequence. So by observation, you can see that every time we are adding plus 6, and plus 6. Now, whenever we have plus 6, we first write down 6, or plus 6, and let's first write this down. That's the first step. Now, we know that the first term is equal to 1. So basically, 1n, this is the first term, term number 1. If we replace n here, that will be plus 6 times 1. You're getting the value of 6. However, you're supposed to get 1, right? This is the first term. So how can you change 6 to 1? You will say 6, we have to minus 5 to get 1. So same thing, minus 5 right here. So the n term will be 6n minus 5. That is part 1 of your question. Obviously, you can check for the rest. For example, you would say second term is 7. Second term is when n is equal to 2. So we replace here 6 times 2 minus 5 is what? So 6 times 2 minus 5 should be 7. So confirm that is the good expression in terms of that. Now for part 2, Lee says that there's no even numbers in the sequence. Use the expression for the nth term to explain why. So it's pretty easy. You have many ways to explain that. For example, you can say 6n minus 5. This is even and this is odd, right? So when even minus odd or even plus odd, you will always get odd. That's one way of looking at this. So you can write that just like I said, when even plus odd or even minus odd, you will always get an odd number. That is one way. The other way, you can just say that the expression 6n minus 5, you can see, is not divisible by 2. That is the other way of looking at this. That is the other answer as well. So 2 answers you can put that makes sense to show that you understand what are even numbers and how you can show this is not going to give you an even number. Now for part B, here are the first 4 terms of a different sequence. So one by one. Now whenever we have a fraction, the thing that I advise you guys is, let's look at the upper values by itself and look at the lower values by itself one by one. So for example, here we have, on top we have 2, 4, 8, and 16. So they are called the numerators obviously, but I'm just using upper values because that's easier to understand for everybody. So now this is the term that we have on top. And this is my first term, second term, third term, and fourth term. Again, by doing a lot of questions, you will realize what's happening. For example, you can clearly see that every time, what's happening? This is just 2 power 1. This is 2 power 2. This is 2 power 3. This is 2 power the 4. So what if it was n term? You would say it will be 2 power n. So that will be the value on the numerator for your n term. Now, what about the denominator? Pretty easy as well. Same steps, let's have a look. You see 1. So first term, second term, third and fourth term. That will be 9, 16, 25, and 36. Now, we have to realize what kind of numbers are these. So from experience, you will know that this is simply 3 square, 4 square, these are the square numbers, 5 square, and 6 square. Right. Now, how can we use the term to get this? Let's think. It could be the term 1 plus something plus 2 to get 3 squares. Same thing, plus the term 2 plus what to get 4 plus 2 to get 4. Now here same thing, that will be 3 plus 2 square, here 4 plus 2 square. So we can see a trend here, what's happening. If this was n over here, that will be, as you can see, this was 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. If it was n, that will be n as well. Plus what? You can see it is always 2 at the end, so plus 2. And here we have square on everything. So that will be the nth term for this sequence on the denominators. So now, let's combine them. On top you will have 2 power n, on the bottom you will have n plus 2 square. That will be part B of your question. Now let's move on to part C of your question. So the nth term of another sequence is given to you by this. Okay, so the first term in this sequence with a value more than 2000 is u of k. So when n is equal to k, right? So let's replace. So what is u of k? That will be 3k squared minus 6k plus 5. When this is more than 2000. Of course, in math D, not add math, we have not learned how to solve these kind of inequalities. So let's first just simplify this to make it equal. Plus 5 equal to 2000. So simplify. Minus 5 minus 2000. 1995. Okay. Now solve for the value of k by using the formula obviously. So k, will be, so that will be a minus b, that should be a 6 plus minus b squared minus 4ac, so b squared minus 4 times a times c, that should be 2, 3, and 7, 6, divided by 2a, that should be 6. So 6 plus root of 23976. That should be 26.806, or 6 minus root of 23976 divided by 6, minus 24.8. Again, obviously a term here cannot be negative, so we will not be looking at this value, but looking at this one. Now, obviously, we have 26 on the number line, 26.8 something. Now, what is the integer before and after this? You would say before you will have 26, and after you have 27. Obviously, a term can only be an integer, right? So we can only choose either 26 or 27 to be that value. Now we have to check which one makes sense. So we place it back in your equation of this one. So that'd be 3 26 squared minus 6n, which is 26 plus 5. So 3 times 26 squared minus 6 times 26 plus 5. That is 1877, which is not more than 2000. So obviously that should be the other one. But let's check just to make sure. That will be 3. The next term 27 plus 5. 3 times 27 squared minus 6 27 plus 5. That will be 20 30. So the value here will be 20. Sorry, not 20 30, but it will be valid because it is more than 2000, so that will be the term. K will be 27. That will be question part C. Okay, so now let's move on to question number 8. So here A is a point minus 2, 1, B is a point 3, 3. Find the length of AB. So here you have to use your formula here to find this. So it is also pretty simple. That will be square root. So x2 minus x1, so 3 minus 2 is 5, that will be 5 square, plus 3 minus 1 is 2, 2 square, that should be 4. So 5 square plus 4, root of 29, that should be 5.385. So correct to 3SF, that should be 5.39 units. For that value of AB, the length of AB. Now for part 2, we have ABCD is a square with side of AB, BC, CD, and DA, where C is below the x-axis. Now we have to find the point C. Again, in exam situation, obviously, I would strongly use a diagram because that will give me, I would say, confidence in my answer. Again, this is my method. In exam, I don't want to waste too much time thinking of how I'm going to solve this question, because usually you don't get this kind of question. You have to use formulas and try to solve. It is up to you. You can do that as well. But usually, I would just prefer to use a diagram and solve this by observation, because here it didn't ask you to calculate. It just asked you to find the answer. So me personally, I will be using a diagram because that's the easiest way of solving this according to me. Now let's do this. So basically that will be my y-axis, right? I just label those points just to make sure we have the values inside of this. Some over here. There you go. Let's label this one as well. Okay, so that will be 0. The first one that I have is what? It is the point A will be minus 2, 1. So minus 2 is right here, 1 to be here. And the point B is 3, 3. So 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So here we go, A and B. Let's join those two by a straight line. Right, here you go. Now we understand that it is going to be a square. A square, obviously, we have angles between the sides has to be 90. You can use your instruments to help you out just to kind of map this out and see what are the possible values. Something like this, right? Will be in this direction. And this have to be also kind of have a angle of 90 over here, will be somewhat in this direction. Okay, now we can use our knowledge of displacement. For example, we know this is minus 2, 1. This is a value of 3, 3. So how can you move from A? So when it is looked in the horizontal way, how can you move from A to B? You would say to move from A to B, you will first have to move from here till here. Right here, and here till here, right? So that's how you move. That will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you move 5 to the right, and you go 1, 2, 2 up. Same way. Now if it is looked upon horizontally. Now if you were to flip this in this way, so same logic, how would you move? 5 and 2. So let's try this. So you would say 5 and 2 should be, here you go, that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until here, and 2 up, that should be right here, and 2. So 5 and 2. The same way for this one as well. If you place this way, you'll also move 5 and 2. So 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right here, and 2. Should be somewhere over here. Okay, there you go. Now we just have to join the points and kind of figure out what is the value of that going to be. Okay, there you go. This is 5 and 2. Okay, now obviously, how would you label the point C? So we have to be in order. Now the order matters because you can see A, B, so C will have to be this one, and D. Now the mistake that you guys may make is that you may choose this one to be C, and that will not be the right answer because the order matters. So A, B, C, and D. So have to be in this direction. Now what is this point? That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's minus 1, minus 2. So minus 1, minus 2. That will be minus 2. So 5, minus 2. And the point D as well. Point D is what? That should be 0. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. So 0 minus 4. That will be the point D. Again, in my opinion, drawing a diagram will make your life much easier in this kind of question because you don't have to think that much, right? If you draw something, you're like, okay, maybe this is the point. I know a few knowledge about squares. What are the things I know about squares? Can I do this? And then slowly, you will find out that should be about the value that you should need to find for the coordinates of C. Okay, that will be part 2 of the question. Now let's move on to part B of the question. So P is a point minus 78, Q is a point 94. Now point 1, find the midpoint. So midpoint we have to use the formula obviously, so just x1 plus x2. That should be minus 7 plus 9 is 2. 2 divided by 2, that should be 1. 8 plus this should be 12, divided by 2 should be 6. So 1, 6 will be the midpoint of the line PQ. Okay. Now we have to find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of PQ. Now again, we have to understand what are we trying to find. For example, we have a point P here, point Q here. It is a line PQ. Now we have to understand the perpendicular bisector is a line passing through the midpoint of PQ. So the midpoint we know already it is 1, 6. But it passes at an angle of 90 degrees. That's also something we have to know to solve this question. Oh, sorry about that. So this is 90 degrees, and let's call this bisector, right? Now we have to find the equation of this line. So to find the equation of a line, we need the passing point. We have the passing point already, and we also need the gradient. Now, to find the gradient of B, we have to first find the gradient of PQ. So the gradient of PQ have to be what? We use the points. That will be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. 4 minus 8, that will be minus 4 divided by 16. That should be minus 1 over 4. Let's try double check. Exactly. Now we understand if this is this, then the gradient of b has to be what? The value of 4, because they are both connected by equation, which is m of pq, the gradient of pq. If you multiply by the gradient of b, you're supposed to get minus 1. So if I know this is minus 1 over 4, and the gradient of mb, I don't know, so we have to solve for this one. Mb have to be what? So minus sign cancel out, so multiply by, cross multiply, you will have 4 right here. That's why you end up with the gradient of b will be 4. Now, we have to use the passing point, which is 1, 6. This is my x value, my y value, so y minus 6 over x minus 1 has to be equal to the gradient. So now we cross multiply again. This is just a way that I use to find the equation. So if you have other methods, you can always use that as well. Y is equal to, for this, plus 2. So that will be your question number 8 done for part 2. Now let's move on to question number 9. So number 9, what do we have? We have A, B, C or points on a circle. So A, B, C, center O right here. X is a midpoint of AB. As you can see, it is a midpoint of AB. So which means this and this have to be the same. It's a midpoint, right? Now, Y is a midpoint of BC because BC, so this and this have to be the same. Now, since AB and BC are the same, so this, and this all have to be the same. Makes sense, right? Now, part A, we have to show the triangle AOX. So AOX, this one, is congruent to triangle BOY. So BOY is this one and this one. They are congruent. Basically, we have to show they are the same. Now, how can you show they're the same? We can show all the corresponding sides are equal. That's one way of showing they're the same. So let's do this. So first one we can say OA is equal to the value of OB. So this one is this one. Why? Because it is the radius of the same circle. So radii of the same circle. That's why it is the same. Now what else? We can say that AX and BY are the same. So AX is equal to BY. Because why? As you can see, the reason is because X is a midpoint of AB and Y is a midpoint of BC. And since AB and BC are the same, these have to be the same. So you can say, yeah, X, Y are midpoints of AB and BC respectively. And we know that AB is equal to BC given to you by the question. So because of that, they also have to be the same value. And finally, obviously, you would say that OX is the same as OY because it is the same distance. The distance between O to chord of same length. Chord of same length has to be the same value. As you can see here, this going to here is the same as this going to here because we know that these are the chords of same length. So obviously they have to be of the same distance. That will be the three justification why these two are congruent. And then finally you would say because of that we conclude that triangle AOX is congruent to triangle BOY. And this is part A of your question. Now for part B, the circle has radius 4 and AB is equal to 7. So circle has radius 4. So this is the radius. And AB, so AB is equal to 7. which means this is 3.5. This is 3.5. Let's check. So half and half. Yep, indeed 3.5, 3.5. Now, we have to find the angle BOA. So BOA will be this whole thing. Right. Now, obviously we can use our knowledge of triangles because we understand that this triangle AXO is the same as XBO. So we can first find this angle. Let's call this alpha. So how would you find this? We can use this right angle triangle right here. So AXO. So that is my hypotenuse, and this is my opposite side. We have to use sine. So let's try again. So let's check. SOHCAHTOA. SOHCAHTOA. Right. So this is my hypotenuse. So the side opposite of the right angle have to be the hypotenuse. And then this is my opposite side. So that will be sine of the angle that we don't know, has to be opposite side, which is 3.5 over the value of hypotenuse 4. So alpha have to be what? Sine inverse of 3.5 divided by 4. That should be 61.0449. And finally, the angle AOB times 2, that should be 122.08995. But however, angles, we always write them to one decimal place. That should be 122.1 degrees. So the angle AOB will be 122.1 degrees. Right. Now finally, we have to find what? We have to find the area of the shaded region. So how would you find this and this? So one by one. So we can first find the area of the triangle right here. So ABO, right? Let's find this first. So how would you find the area of this triangle? So let's find the height, the perpendicular height. So XO. So we can use this triangle, use the Pythagoras theorem. That will be 4 square minus 3.5 square root, right? That should be 1.9365 for the perpendicular height. Now the area of this triangle, that will be what? That will be half times base. The base is 7 times the height, 1.9365. This is this triangle, but we also have this one. This is the same as this one, so times 2. Let's see what happens. This will go away. So you will have 1.9365 times 7. That should be 13.555 and 5. This is the area of these two triangles. Now to find the area of this region and this region, we can simply find the area of the whole sector over here and then minus the area of the triangle. Again, this is one of the ways. There's obviously many ways to find this value. So let's try this. How would you find the area of that sector? You will say the angle. This whole angle here is what? You would say this is 122.08995 times 2. This whole thing, right? That will be 244.12. So 244.18 divided by 360 times pi. So how do you find the area of a whole circle? Say pi r square. R square is 4 square. Let's see what happens. That will be 16 pi times 244.18 divided by 360. That should be 34.094. So finally, taking the value minus 13.56, that should be 20.5 as your value. Correct to 3SF. So step by step, your value here, area will be 20.5 centimeters square. Now let's move on to the last question. Farah and Abid each play a numbers game. Okay, they both start with the same number. So we don't know the number, let's call the number x. The same number x. Now Farah subtract 4 from the number and then multiplies the result by 11. So we take out 4 and then multiply this by 11. A bit multiplies the number by 5, so x we have at first multiplied by 5 and then plus 1. And they both end up with the same value, so we know that the number here, let's expand, you will have 11x minus 44 has to be the same as this because they end up with the same number. Let's solve for the value of x. Send this over here, so 11 minus 5 will be 6x, that should be 45, so x will be 45 divided by 6, that will be 7.5. Okay. That will be part A of your answer. Now for part B, we have to rearrange this formula to make C become the subject. So how can you do this? So one by one, let's first try to cross multiply. That will be AC plus A is equal to 4B minus BC. Send this over here, that will be AC plus BC has to be 4B minus A. So C has to be A plus B is equal to 4B minus A. So finally, C has to be 4B minus A over the value of A plus B. That is part B of your question. Now part C, finally we have to express this as a single fraction. The base is different, so we have to first cross multiply. You have 5 times 1 minus x, and then here we have minus 4 times 3, x minus 2, and the base, we have to multiply them by each other. Now again, this is just a boring process. We just have to expand and simplify. I will leave this up to you guys, and that will be the last question of this paper. I hope that was somewhat helpful. I will see you soon.